Hello.
Hi, Rebecca, it's Beatrice.
Hi, Beatrice. It's Rebecca. How are you?
I'm good, I'm very well, thank you. What about you?
I am fine. I'm remembering why every year I start to think hibernation is a really good idea.
Hmm,
I've just been curled up by the fire with Coda, and I just sort of think, yes, this is, once the temperature gets to a certain level, this is what I think I should do.
have you stashed all your nuts away safely?
I'm not even sure I should answer that, but yes.
That's was, I just want to stress this was not a euphemism or anything like that.
I know, I
Hmm,
know. It was a totally innocent
yeah,
question.
yeah,
Um, yes, all is fine, and yes, I would just like to stay by the fire.
yeah,
I like winter and winter clothes, but I prefer it from inside looking out,
yeah.
really.
No, I agree with that totally.
Yes,
Mm,
and I do think, I mean, we've been very lucky, but I think, it's going to hit a point soon where I just don't want to go out at all.
mm. Let's just not go out then.
Yeah, if people need to see us, they can come to
Yeah,
us.
yeah,
We could be Marie Antoinette about it all and
yes,
have a levee.
yeah,
Yeah, we can revive that. But
yeah.
it was so good to see you yesterday. I'm
Oh,
really glad you were able to come because
yeah.
we. It was just so good that you could come to the courthold and see Ellen Nolan speak about her great aunt's archive. It was amazing.
Yeah, when I saw the announcement and I saw that picture of the women on the rooftop, I just thought, oh, I wish I could go, and I thought I wouldn't be able to, but I was so pleased I could come. The images were just incredible.
The images are amazing, and it's like it would be amazing enough to find an archive in that good a condition
Mm,
of somebody you don't know, but the fact it's her great aunt and she has that close contact and she met her, she knew her, is just like another layer to
yeah.
the whole thing.
Mm,
But it's really, I mean, one of the things that really struck me, I mean, I'm not really sure how extensive the archive is. Clearly, there's loads of photographs of her entire, of Nita Harvey from her entire lifetime.
yes.
And so it was really interesting that we saw her as a baby growing up in London and then in Golders Green, kind of dreaming of being on the stage and a film actress, and then going to Hollywood and then coming back. So it's like, that's amazing. But the thing that really struck me so much was how self possessed she was and how confident she was in front of the camera.
Yeah, that was just extraordinary. Quite, you know, some images she apart from the children's one, which obviously is slightly different, but in some of them she
Mm.
looked like 12 or something.
Yes,
And
yes, yeah.
and how she I don't I was thinking this morning because I've been I've been thinking about it a lot. How well, I was wondering what she looked at, you know, how would she have encountered the
Yes,
images she obviously tried to emulate? Did she have, you know, did she go to the movies a
that's
lot? You know, she must have
she
done.
must have. She must
Yeah.
have because I know the ones you mean. There's like a set of six of her and her friend kind of messing about for
Mm,
the camera, but it is like she's doing silent film poses
yeah.
and she's so aware of how to use costume even. It's like even from that early age of, as you say, about 12 or so, she's really improvising continuously with anything to hand to make a wardrobe that looks like costume and that looks filmic, really.
Mm,
And I was wondering whether in the archive, I must ask Ellen if you feel she must have just been going to the cinema all the time, which loads of people did,
yes.
reading fan magazines all the time, because
Mm,
some of the poses, particularly when she gets a bit older and more glam, really you feel like you could find the exact
yes.
picture that she's referring to.
Yes.
And it she's so modern. It's like she's such a kind of product of popular culture at the time and cinematic culture and such an early example of it.
Yeah. The other thing that struck me again from very early on is the makeup,
Yes, yes, I was going to say that, yes.
because that was so accomplished. You know, her eyebrows.
Mm.
And I'm just on Ellen Nolan's website on the blog bit, and
Mm.
this one is one of a sort of, it's a later one, and Ellen says she thinks it's after a Greta Garbo one, and she obviously has some sort of shimmery stuff underneath her eyes, and
Oh, wow.
so she, there must have been quite a lot of different kind of products, and that dark, deep lip that she has.
Yes. And I love it that she was still wearing that when she was very elderly.
Yes, yeah.
That was her signature. No, the makeup is astonishing because I think the first really glamorous ones are when she's about 14, and her hair is like beautifully curled. And yes, there's definitely some makeup, which must have been very daring. I wonder if because I don't think there were photo booths at that time. I think she'd have had to have gone to a studio to have passport style photos done.
I think there were photo booths, but that was
Oh, really?
but that was one thing I thought I want to find out. I was thinking
Yes,
about
I
that.
do.
Yeah. I don't know.
Because she's either going to a photo booth regularly or a studio regularly, and she's so aware that the camera is something she must perform for.
Yes.
And that's amazing because I've been looking at loads of amateur photographs over the last few years, and she is extraordinary.
Yeah.
Like usually people are awkward. In the 1920s, they're not really still quite sure what to do in front of a camera that obviously one of their family is holding, and she just looks like she's a professional from the age of 12 and is just performing. And it really, I know it's always a bit trite to compare, and it's just like now with Instagram, but it was making me think how she's doing what people do now with Instagram, of kind of trying out different selves and referring to fashion and film, etc., in the way they present themselves. And she's doing this with all the effort that has to be put in as a 1920s sort of teenager to do that. It's not like you've just got your phone and you can snap. She has to think, what am I take with me?
And she also has to have someone else. I think that's the other thing that really struck me. And I had so many questions afterwards, but it was quite late, so I didn't ask them. But one thing, it seems like it was a lot her mother who was taking the photos, but there was obviously also a sister.
Yes, and there's also her boyfriend that she mentioned.
Yeah, so I did wonder.
There's an accomplice in all of this, and someone who's patient enough.
And an accomplished accomplice as well.
Yes, yes, there's such really, really good photographs.
Yeah.
And it's the way it's like a trick, isn't it? Because you just see these photographs, so you imagine she's always on. And obviously people weren't casual in the way that they are now. She's like a sort of respectable middle-class woman. She would have been dressed and made up. She wouldn't have been wearing casual clothes apart from for sport and stuff. But it is amazing, and I love how she must be sort of mid-late teens when she's in her back garden and posing with flowers and posing with a rug and posing with a table, and it's like these, you sort of imagine these endless hours of her saying, now go and get the silk cushion and I'll hold it to my face.
Yeah. Yeah, they must have spent so much time on this. And I wonder, so she does go to the stage. She is on the stage in London.
Yes.
Isn't she?
Yes. Sorry, go on.
No, you I don't have anything.
No, just I was going to say, I don't know about her stage career. Ellen showed a photograph of her on stage, didn't she? And said that was the only one they had. But wasn't she in Me and My Girl at the Coliseum?
Yeah, I think so.
I think she mentioned that. But on IMDb, it lists 5 films that she was in.
And they were here in England?
Some in America.
Oh, okay.
So I think Ellen said she was in 2 Ealing films. And I think there's this one that's called something like Raiders in the Sky, that's a kind of just pre-war film. And then there's that one, Search for Beauty in Hollywood.
Yes.
And maybe one more in Hollywood.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It would be really interesting to know more about her relationship to the theatre. And also, it was interesting. What did you think? I thought it was interesting that Ellen divided it into domestic and was it career or professional or commercial? That's it,
Commercial, yeah.
Because in a way I felt like they're actually all commercial, even when
Yes.
she's photographing her, being photographed in her back garden. It's not the way that most amateur photographs are in the back garden.
No.
She is fully conscious of presenting an image which she wants to be like a movie star.
Yes.
Doesn't she?
Yeah, totally. From day one, it's incredible.
It really is. No, I've never seen images like this. And it's interesting as well because it was reminding me, that brilliant Richard Dyer book, Stars?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was really reminding me of how he talks about the star as commodity, which obviously Ellen talks about when her great aunt was in Hollywood, but also how their star persona extends into their personal lives. And it's like, I don't know how big a star she was on the stage. She's clearly got an acting career on the stage. She's modeling, she's doing professional things. But it is like she's continually in rehearsal for when, Movie Star magazine comes around to photograph her.
She's ready.
At leisure.
Yeah, she's ready. Yeah, but it's almost the other way around. Sort of, some people, I keep going on about you must remember this podcast, which I love.
Yes.
And she talks a lot about how the studios mold their stars, and to an extent, body modifications and whatever. I mean, to an amazing extent, and how they then conform. They have done this persona. With her, it's like you just said. It's the other way around. She does it herself, and then she always, she constructs it all herself, and then sort of, I guess, presents it to someone who might take it up.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder when she was first on the stage, because, I mean, it's remarkable, even if she was on the stage from 6, to be this professional in your personal life. But
it sounded like she sort of persuade her uncle to let her go.
Oh, yes.
On the stage when she was really quite a child.
Oh,
by
yes,
the sounds
yes,
of it.
that she just appeared on stage at one point without telling them.
I mean, I thought that was so interesting. Also, the images at the beginning of the fancy dress party. Or like you pointed out, they looked like they were going somewhere else, all dressed up in.
I think they were. I don't think it was a party at the house. I think that they were going to some kind of event, because they had little badges with numbers on them, as though they had either just been in or were about to go in a fancy dress parade that would be judged. Yeah,
you're right. I didn't see the little numbers, but that makes sense. But I just thought, sort of growing up, she seems to have grown up somewhere where, in a family where that was already quite, the stage was there, posing for the camera was there. Even when she was, really small, the first 2 images when she was maybe 2 or 3 even. So that must have been a sort of thing from the start, in a way.
Well, I think, didn't Ellen say that her grandmother
she was on the stage,
but then wasn't allowed to sort of pursue it? Or was it that her mother was?
I think her grandmother, Ida, I seem to remember, was on the stage, and then didn't want her daughter, so Nita's mother, to go on stage, but then weirdly supported her granddaughter. Although this story of someone else sending off the photo, that's such a, you always hear it, that I didn't send it, it was my mother, my boyfriend, my...
Yeah, so I don't think anyone ever admits they're the one who did it.
I took that with a pinch of salt, I think.
Yeah. But it, you're right. There is a sense of sort of theatricality, and I think definitely those pictures look like before or after the party, when they're all in there, because there's no signs of party. Like, party pictures are different. It's like they're standing there ready to go, or ready just to come back, and they're from, she said, about 1918, didn't she?
Yeah.
And they're amazing, and there's so many of them where it's like, this time he's a Piro, now he's a, it's like, I mean, that one where someone was dressed as sort of London Transport, where he had a sort of, it looked like a kind of shiny smock on that had pictures of buses and things on.
That was
very good.
I suspect it seems to have been popular at around Christmas, New Year's time, and I wonder whether That's what it was. Yeah.
And also local fates would have them.
Mm.
Would have. There's so much amateur film footage of little fates in church halls and the local park and stuff. Or if there's a sort of manor nearby, the family puts it on, where they have fancy dress parades and win prizes. It seems like such a major part of life at that time.
Yeah.
For a certain sort of set of people. But yeah, and then so there's the pictures, as you said, of her on the rooftop with other women who are kind of hopefuls for some agency in London.
Yeah, and there's so many puzzles about it. There's this one where they do this 5-woman formation.
Yes.
When I just don't know how, and they don't wear any shoes, and they wear what looks maybe like a swimming suit, or looks a bit like underwear as well, in sort of white with a belt. But they're sort of standing on what looks like a bed sheet.
I know, it's so funny because it's a professional agency and they're professional women, but it's like you sort of think if you're just standing on a bed sheet with bare feet, then surely you'd stage it so you could crop it out and have the Colosseum in the background as an amazing backdrop. But you don't. It's not you couldn't do that, so you would have to print it with all of the kind of detail.
And I think now that I'm looking at it, it's again on the blog part of Ellen Nolan's website. I think you can see behind Nita the shoes standing there that they must have
really?
taken off.
That's
a bit of rubbish. Oh, they're the shoes. I think they're the shoes. So that was weird. And then,
it is weird.
And then the other one where they're still on the bed sheet, but they now have their shoes back on, and quite a few of them are smoking, and they're looking at things. And it's just, again, weird, this sort of bed sheet. I mean, it's nice that they didn't want them to sit on the grubby roof, but again, I cannot see how they would have made that into a picture.
No, into a sort of publicity thing.
Yeah.
And I think they're wearing rehearsal clothes. Because I think there's lots of, like, if you think of Hollywood films of that period, many musicals, and rehearsal clothes seem quite improvised as well.
That's true.
Don't they? That they're combinations of kind of underwear-y looking things, swimming costume-y looking things, but then also dance things.
Yeah.
So it's a sort of hybrid form of dress. Yeah, I know they're more uniform in what they're wearing, so it is like it's more prepared. But no, it is a very funny set of photographs. And it seems like not long after that, either her grandmother or somebody sent her in for this international beauty contest that Paramount Studios did. Which is another thing. It was reminding me, do you remember, I was going to say, do you remember when Lucy and the Log, as though, we were alive in 1924, and we remember it. But that stuff about Lucy and the Long going to America to get American models to model his clothes in Paris because he wanted American sporty bodies, and it's like that similar kind of enormous publicity stunt, really, where it's like bringing loads of sort of beautiful young people to Hollywood, and it's like a fairy tale, isn't it? It's like she's willed herself into being. To do that. And I liked the photographs of her, like at Waterloo, waving goodbye for the newspaper photographer as she gets the bus, that would be good if you get a bus, to get the boat across to Manhattan, and then the train across to Los Angeles.
And I thought it was interesting that it wasn't just women, it was men as well.
Yes.
And that
was really interesting.
And that the men also were in the shots that you then saw were in just swimming trunks.
Yes. They're all objectified. They're all commodities. And the way, like Ellen said, that they were called $75 properties.
Yes.
Because I suppose for a big, powerful studio like Paramount, the amount it would cost to bring them all over and, have them there for however long they wanted them, really, would be negligible against the amount of publicity that they'd get. And then I think the film was called Search for Beauty, wasn't it?
Yes.
So it kind of then theatricalizes and makes spectacle of the story that Paramount has concocted.
And there seems to be some big dance scenes in it. which
Yes,
is interesting because again the photos on the roof seem to suggest she was part of some sort of chorus or
that's true. I hadn't
um,
thought of that.
so she must have, because that's the other. I guess maybe some of these mass dance scenes, even I could probably do the routine.
Oh,
But
you'd be marvelous.
but some others I definitely couldn't. So she must have had
Yeah.
some dance training, I suspect.
Yes.
And the film of her, this, what is it called?
Oh my goodness. Yes, the
Yeah,
casting film.
that was
Well, I'm not sure what
incredible.
it's called.
Yeah.
That's really. I think that was really kind of heartbreaking in a
Mm.
way
Yeah.
because she's so confident and so polished, and then suddenly it all just seems really cold and horrible that she's just standing in front of this camera in her underwear, and clearly someone's telling her to turn around and do this and do that, and the camera's panning over her, and it's the first time you see a flicker of doubt in her
Yeah.
face.
Mm. Yeah, that was really sad. But also, I wonder, I wonder who was on the other side. I wonder who she was
Yes.
standing in front, whether it was just one man and a camera, or whether there were quite a few. Probably was a cameraman and then someone else because she looks to one side when the
Yes,
instructions
exactly.
come. So, probably fully closed, one assumes. And then it's
Yes,
just,
yes.
it must have just been. I mean, I suspect they did that with a man as well, but still, that doesn't make it any better. That just looked so uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. And it is as though the kind of reality of what you had to do in Hollywood to get on, and how different the Hollywood system was.
Mm.
Yeah, because Ellen said, when we asked her at the end, she said that Nita, that she kept encountering like directors wanting favors for um, getting her into films and wouldn't do it, and them not paying her properly, and it does sound like sort of terrible disillusionment
Yeah.
once she's involved in Hollywood.
Mm.
I mean, good for her that she stood up for herself and she refused to do things she didn't want to do, and she made a fuss about not being paid properly.
Yeah. And that she seemed to have said that she had a career and she wasn't just some newbie who just won a
Yes,
beauty contest.
yes,
Um,
exactly.
so that
Exactly. There's something really admirable about her, and really, as I say, just really modern. It's like her. It's like she's sort of born of the movie era and just inhabits it and lives it from such a young age. And then I wasn't quite clear when she came back.
Yeah, I wasn't quite clear. I mean, the photos with her and her then husband, because she wears like a kimono in one of them, and
Mm,
and then also Ellen says she could just continue to wear the same kind of clothes in
that
a
was
way.
interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, lots of people do that, but I
yeah,
suppose particularly when you're so kind of revered for being so beautiful and accomplished, and you have this kind of moment in your life that seems to sort of hold everything as possible, you can see why you would continue. Like she dyed her hair black all her life, and she
yes,
wore the burgundy lipstick and wore clothes that she'd worn earlier in her life. It is like, yes, like she's still that person. She's really signaling it.
mm. So it was sort of it wasn't quite clear when these photos were from, but some looked sort of 50s, and the house
Yeah.
definitely looked 50s. But I
Yes.
got
And
the impression she wasn't in Hollywood more than like 2 years at the very most.
no.
Mm.
And there's the publicity shot of her as a film actress and radio star. So I
Oh
wonder if
yes,
when she came back, if she, I mean, it doesn't seem she did any more film acting, but I wonder if she was on the stage or if she was doing radio
radio,
plays or
yeah.
something.
And the photo, I loved that photo of her on the ice.
Yes,
That was
that was amazing.
incredible.
I'd forgotten that one when
Yeah,
she's doing an appearance.
yeah, and you just see her from the back and quite far
Yes.
away, and because she doesn't wear skates, but she's on the ice, there are these
I mean,
two
I have no
men.
idea how she got onto the
Yeah,
rink and back in heels.
I know, in high heels. So she's got these
Yeah.
two men who I don't think were wearing skates either.
That's true, actually,
holding
yes.
on, well, not holding on to her, but supporting
Mm,
her. And I wonder what she did, but she maybe, yeah, it sounded like she was opening events, and so she must
yes.
have been, a draw. And yeah,
Yeah,
and I guess this fan letter that Ellen had, and that,
that was rather creepy. That was
yeah,
very obsessive
yes,
letter.
hmm. But I guess she must have, remained to be a draw, which is interesting for
Yes.
someone who doesn't seem to have made that many films, or,
No.
um,
So you do feel there must have been, I mean, I guess like on a local basis, you might be a local star, if you see what I mean, and
yeah,
that's kind of quite an interesting thought as well. That she's like a star in her own garden, and then in
yeah,
the street, and then in the locality, and then on the stage, and then Hollywood, and then it's kind of a rising and then fading
mm,
with the different spaces that she inhabits, isn't it?
yeah,
But yeah, she must have still had a pull, and I do wonder, yeah, if it's radio is the kind of last element of that.
yeah. And I love
But yeah, it's fascinating.
the montages that Ellen
Yes,
did.
it's so interesting to see, that Ellen is a photographer, and the way she's kind of thinking of it in terms of the photographs, and then making those beautiful montages of images of her aunt, but also like objects like the hanger with
Yes.
Nita scratched onto it, dressing room 2 or whatever it was, and her checkbook that she took to America and
Mm,
things.
yeah. Yeah, it was,
They're really poignant.
yes. No, it was a really, really, I was wrapped the whole whole
I
time.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like it's just such an amazing story, and to have the films and the objects and
Mm,
the photographs is just extraordinary.
mm.
Oh well, lots of wonderful things to think
Yes,
about. I'm going to go back
definitely.
through the pictures I took.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, and yeah, the blog is really good. There are quite a lot on there.
Oh, I'll have a
Yeah.
look. Well,
Okay.
wonderful to see you,
Yeah, really
and I'll
nice.
talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.